Now you're looking at pictures from Union Square in New York earlier today, and the rally, as I said, moving its way towards Wall Street as we speak. And for the latest on the scene in New York and more, let's bring in our reporter on the ground in New York, Kim Lengel.
Yeah, Rich, you're exactly right. You know, it was expected that about 12,000 union workers would show up for this particular portion of the day's events, and by all estimates, we're seeing those numbers swell. We're hearing even numbers 20,000 and upwards, although official numbers aren't out yet. These are just estimates. Joining me now are two folks from the United Auto Workers Union. Why are you here today?
We're here today because we're out with the immigrants and the students and other folks in order to bring a message of economic justice to the streets here. For too long, the 1% have been taking our jobs, stealing our education, our homes, and it has to stop. It just really has to stop.
What impact do you think Occupy Wall Street and this amalgamation, this group that's now formed between unions, Occupy Wall Street, and the immigrants' rights movement, what do you think, what impact will that have in the general election? Occupy is saying they don't think it's really going to have much and they don't really want to enter the fray, but what do you think?
I think it's historic because it's motivating people. Whether you're involved in Occupy or not directly, is putting the consciousness of the American public back in engaging them in issues that are of vital concern. I think it's going to motivate people to get out and vote because they know what's at stake. Occupy has made it very, very clear what's at stake, and we in Labor are proud to be with them, getting that message out to people.
And finally, when you go back to work tomorrow, what are you going to expect is different?
Well, I'm going to expect that my job will be much the same, but I think that we need to make it clear in this election year that crystallize the issues. That's what I think Occupy has done, that that we are the 99% and that there is a broad movement here that is really demanding change.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you guys very much. And I know this movement right now is moving along. It's actually moving downtown to Zuccotti Park and the New York Stock Exchange. We don't exactly know what's going to happen after that, but we're going to keep you updated. Rich, back to you in the studio.
All right, Kim, thank you. And I'm curious, Richard, we saw what happened at Citigroup, where the shareholders said not so fast when it came to a nice bonus check here for the CEO. Now, in the end of the day, he's going to get his money, but was that just an isolated thing, or do you think part of the consequence of the Occupy movement is that people don't just, write a blank check, but say, it's not my business?
There's no question that a lot of assumptions that we've all sort of just accepted without question are now being re-examined. The question of executive pay, which is more symbolic than it is economically real for most people, is becoming a way for people who want to participate and may not be in the middle class to sort of put a brake on practices that are just unsound. Same is true on tax matters, same is true on corporate welfare matters, economic development was what they call it euphemistically. All that stuff is now in play. Now, some of it will work out, there'll be major change, some of it won't change, but all of it is a dynamic started in Zuccotti Park by people who understood that the world can't continue down the path it's on and are changing the world. You know,
Andrew, we talked before about historically that we haven't seen the gap between where we are now, between the 1 and the 99, if you will. But we've got a graphic up here that we're going to bring up in a second that bears this out, because really, you have to go way back to find a time where there's been this much of a gap, because while we've had a tough economy, not everybody has suffered equally.
Well, we're talking about income and what goes to the 1% and what goes to the bottom 90%, and there you see the light blue, the top 1%. And the most recent numbers all the way to the right, 2002 to 2007, there's a huge gap there, and as you go back looking to your left, historically, that gap has been much lower, much less, and then you go back to where the bottom 90% actually made more than the top 1%. The biggest concern is the number all the way to the left, and you see those lines and compare them to the lines all the way to the right. The reason why that's such a worry is because the furthest left, that's leading up to the Great Depression and the worst economic moment in our nation's history. And look at how similar those numbers are. It's actually a bigger spread now between 2002 and 2007, and we haven't changed those numbers since the recession hit in 2008.
The language I've noticed, Dominic, you've followed enough campaigns here, not to make you an old man, but I heard the word and the phrase job creators quite a bit in the primary process.
Yes.
I don't hear Mitt Romney saying job creators anymore. I don't think we're going to be hearing that in commercials where there's a defense of the 1% to say, no matter what, you can't mess with them because God forbid you make it tough for them, they're going to fire everybody. I get the sense that, you know, even the GOP says the public might have had it on this one.
I agree with you, and Richard has been making this point quite consistently, and in fairness to him, he's been right. Occupy Wall Street, folks, they have changed the political dialogue. And I really believe we're going to hear the GOP, yes, they will do their defense of the 1%, but I think they're not going to look to pick that battle as often as they would have in the past because it's not a winning battle. Yeah. Not a winning battle at all.
They're not going to have a choice. The Obama campaign is going to take this new atmosphere and turn it into slogans, commercials, and debate points that are really going to work. In the end, this is not so much about the job creators and the 1%ers as it is a great national uprising saying something's wrong, and political leadership, which Obama is finally providing, stepping in and making it into electoral politics. That's the genius of the American system.
And we're going to see this play out in 3 major tax fights before the end of this calendar year with debt limit, with Bush tax cuts renewal. There's some major fights we're going to see this play out.